So you want a mid-engine sports or supercar but don't want to lose a fortune to depreciation?
No worries, I'll guide you through the cars you should steer clear of if you care about resale values, and those that should definitely be on your shortlist.
Now, buying a mid-engine car arguably gives you the penultimate driving experience, but it can also bring you financial ruin. Some models are depreciating by more than 30% per year, while others are losing nothing at all or only a few percentage points.
We'll focus on the latter category, the slowest depreciating mid-engine sports and supercars.
Now, when you think about mid-engine cars, thoughts often wander off to Ferraris and Lamborghinis, cars that are out of reach for many. Of course, we'll talk about these brands, but we'll also have a look at the more affordable options.
Let's have a look at the mid-engine market, the different models and price points. I don't have data on all mid-engine models that are ever produced, but I think that the most popular models are covered. Over here you can see the different brands and the different price points of the mid-engine models. We have the box plots, and the small dots are the individual cars that are for sale. Looking at this, we can see that the median price for a mid-engine model sits at $175,000. Yet, prices start at $5,000 for old boxsters and go up all the way to $1 million for top-of-the-line Lamborghinis and Ferraris. I excluded everything above $1 million. Now in total there are 108 different models included if you consider different generations and model types, so you have enough choice.
Now, provided you're a value-conscious buyer, you probably want to minimize depreciation. So which models are depreciating the least?
We can divide the mid-engine market in 4 price categories. The entry level, containing cars below $72,000. The low middle segment, containing cars between $72,000 and $123,000. The upper middle segment, containing cars between $123,000 and $228,000. And the top segment, meaning everything above $228,000.
We start with the entry level.
Over here we find the Cayman and boxsters from all generations. The Alfa Romeo 4C, Lotus Evora, BMW i8 and Corvette C8 Stingrays. Looking at the depreciation rates during last year, it's no surprise that we find that the Porsches lost the least and overall performed well. Prices for 997 Caymans and boxsters were stable or perhaps increased a bit. To keep the graph readable, I combined the .1 and .2 versions over here. Also the 981 GTS did well, at a plus of 5%. BMW i8s are still depreciating quickly. The curve leveled off a bit a while ago, but continued its downward path. Naturally, C8 Stingrays also have a high depreciation rate. You can click over here if you want to see the full market update.
Caymans and boxsters are of course predictable choices, and I don't think anyone is surprised that they're doing well value-wise.
But what if you want something a little bit different? In that case, the Alfa Romeo 4C and base Evoras are a good option. Prices for these cars were stable during last year.
Let's have a closer look at the top performers.
Over here we have the 987 Cayman market, split by generation and model type. The .1S and .1 base market, so the orange and blue lines are by far the largest, resulting in the most reliable price trends. Looking at the trends, we can see that 987 Cayman prices fluctuate between $25,000 for the .1 base model and $50,000 for the .2 S's, and have been extremely stable since July 21. Compared to last year, .1 base models are up by 3.2% and S's by 2.7%. .2 base models are up by 9.2% and .2 S's are down by 1.2%. Now none of these changes are statistically confirmed, meaning that they could be the result of chance. It's therefore fair to assume that prices were stable.
All of the price changes and trends are also before inflation adjustment.
If we look at the 987 Boxster market, we can see that it's fairly similar to the Cayman market. Prices range between $20,500 for a .1 base model and $71,600 for a .2 Spyder. Last year the .1 base models lost 2.3%, the S's 2.6% and the Spyders gained 1%. The .2 base models lost 0.2%, the S's increased by 5.2% and the Spyders by 1%. Again, all of these changes could be the result of chance since they're not confirmed. Working with a flat development seems appropriate here. Also the 981s are doing quite well. Over here we have the 981 S and GTS for the boxsters and the caymans. Naturally though, The price level is higher and starts at an average of $45,000 for a 981 Boxster S. Compared to last year, Boxster S's are down by 3.9% and Caymans by 3.5%. GTS's are up by 9.5% and 5.2% respectively, but the price uncertainty in these segments is high. It's then also only the drop in the Cayman S market that's confirmed.
Let's have a look now at the 4C and the Evora.
We can see that the 4Cs had quite a good run during the pandemic, then corrected and are now slowly drifting lower. Last year they lost 3%. My data for the Evora base doesn't go back so far, but we can see stable prices since mid-2023. Last year, prices dropped by 0.6% only. Naturally, this change can be the result of chance. The drop in the 4C market is confirmed.
So we covered now the entry-level segment, and that means that it's time to have a look at the next category.
To refresh your memory, this is the low-middle category, containing cars between $72,000 and $123,000. If your budget stretches this far, you can consider 718 Boxsters and Caymans, R8s, the Evora GT and 400, Emeras, the oldest Gallardos, 360s, F355s, 12Cs, second generation i8s and C8 Stingrays, including the Z51 pack.
Fancy any of these cars? Pay attention.
Over here we have the yearly depreciation rates, and you can see that most cars performed pretty well. The average for all cars, including non-mid-engine sports and supercars, sits at approximately 5.2%, so most models in this graph did better than the average. I'm not going to cover all of the models, but long story short, avoid the C8 Stingray and you're relatively safe. Boxsters and Spyders are again scoring well. 987Rs, 981 GTSs and Spyders, 718Ss and 4-liter GTSs all fall on the positive side of the 0 point. Luckily, there are also enough options for people who prefer something else than a Porsche. F355s are doing well, and so are Emeras, but the rate for the Emera needs to be interpreted with care. Check out this video for more information on the Emera market. Naturally, first generation V10 R8s are doing well, and so are the old Gallardos.
Let's dive again a little bit deeper into the best performing cars. We'll have a look at some Boxsters, Caymans, Gallardos, 360s and R8s.
Prices for the Cayman R increased by 19.6%. Now while this trend is supported across time, the increase isn't confirmed. The R market is extremely small, and we can see that they sell relatively slowly and that cars get discounted by 2 to 10% if they don't sell, so caution is required here. Continuing to the 718 Boxsters and Cayman S's, GTS's and 4-liter GTS models, we can see that the price trends for these models are heavily correlated. An increase during the pandemic, a top in the summer of 2022, a correction and a stable price development. Compared to last year, Cayman S's are down by 0.2%, GTS's by 1.9% and 4-liter GTS's by 4.2%. For Boxsters, these rates amount to plus 3.7, minus 0.6 and plus 1.3. Very respectable numbers. Continuing with the first generation automatic V10 R8s, we can see the familiar boom and bust pattern, followed by relatively stable declines. Some models are priced slightly higher than the current category, but I included them because they fitted nicely in the graph. Also note that I didn't split the graph by facelift versus non-facelift cars to get a bit more stable trends. Looking at the yearly changes, we can see that V10 base models lost 1%, pluses 0.4% and GTs 4.8%. All excellent results. Finally we have the 360s and pre-facelift base Gallardos. Followers of the quarterly Ferrari market update will know that prices dropped significantly when we headed into 2024. A strange development, since 360 prices were extremely stable and still increasing when most other cars topped. In the end of 2024, the market stabilized a bit, resulting in a drop of 2.8%. A solid recovery. For the Gallardo, I only have 1 year's worth of data. The Lamborghini market received relatively little attention on the channel, but that will change going forward.
That was the lower middle category, and that means that it's time to have a look at the next one, the upper middle category.
Remember that these are the models with a median price between $123,000 and $228,000. Things are starting to get expensive. Looking at the yearly rates, we can see that most cars lost more than 5%. A big difference from the lower middle segment. Z06s, Arturas and MC20s even break the 20% mark. For more information on this Z06 drop, head over to the latest Corvette video. Now looking at the best performers, we can see again a few Porsches. The 718 Spyder and 718 GT4, but also two McLarens, the 650S and 570S, two Huracans and even an NSX. Also the Superleggera scored good, but supply is low for this model.
Let's again look a little bit closer to the trends of these cars.
Starting with the two McLarens, we can see that the good performance during last year is driven by the development in the last 6 months. The decline halted, resulting in a plus of 1.4% for the 650S market and a minus of 3.9% for the 570S market. The price trends seem highly correlated. Continuing with the GT4 and Spyders, we can see that prices dipped in the second half of 22, just as in the rest of the market, but recovered well. Looking at last year, we can see that there's some volatility, but the depreciation is minimal. Boxster prices show a small increase, but this isn't confirmed. The GT4 market displays a small decrease of 2.2% that is confirmed. If we transition to the Acura and Huracans, we can see that the shape of the trend is very similar and that values have been declining for both models. Yet they've been doing so at a very stable, relatively low rate, a property of which the value is not always fully appreciated. Last year, LP580s lost 3.3% and LP610s 3.2%.
Let's move on to the final segment, the top category.
Remember that this contains all models with a median price above $228,000. It's out of reach for many, but if I'm not mistaken, there are some viewers who are shopping in this segment. It contains recent or top spec Huracans, Ferraris, recent R8s, Aventadors and McLarens. Looking at the overview, we can see that the spread of the depreciation rates is relatively large. Staratos lost the most, but supply is relatively small. Numbers for the SF90 and 296 are more reliable. They're not doing so great. But going a bit down, we quickly reach the large group that did fairly well. F8s, 488s and R8s all fall in this group. The top performance we find at the bottom. Aventadors are doing extremely well, and so are the NSX Type S's, but both of these models come with a caveat.
Now the rates for the Aventador are based on 9 months worth of data, and the final 3 months are estimated. So I'm not going to cover all of those graphs because there's simply not so much to see yet. I'll save that for the full Lamborghini market update.
The rate for the NSX Type S could potentially be deceiving. These cars are selling extremely slowly and are often discounted a lot if they don't sell. Moreover, the average mileage of the cars that are listed for sale hardly increased during the last 2 years. All of this shows that the market isn't that strong and that the low depreciation might be the result of cars sitting around.
So let's have a look at some other cars that performed well.
We'll zoom into the performance models of Ferrari, the 458, 675 LT and EVOs. Starting with the 458s, we can see a decent correction in the second half of 22, followed by price stability. Yes, even 458s corrected. They remain extremely popular though. Prices are even above pre-pandemic levels. Now compared to last year, coupes are down by 1.4% and Spyders are up by 3.7%. Unfortunately for buyers, it also means that these cars are very expensive compared to newer peers. Also 458 Speciales are expensive. In fact, they're priced exactly the same as 488 Pistas. For both models, prices increased tremendously during the pandemic. Since mid-2022, they've been drifting down lower at a slow pace, but are overall very stable. 458 Speciale coupes are up by 2.4% and 488 Pista coupes decreased by 2.2%. These changes aren't confirmed. The increase of 7.5% in the Pista Spyder market though is confirmed. Switching things up with the EVOs, we can see a surprising stable development during last year. A drop of 4.7% in the EVO market and 1.8% in the EVO rear-wheel driven version market. Both changes are confirmed, a good result. 675 LTs also stabilized after a correction. It's of course a small market, so the results need to be interpreted with care. We're now looking at an increase of 2.5% or $7,000 that, unsurprisingly, isn't confirmed.
Now this video became a bit longer than I planned, so let's wrap up and conclude.
We looked at some of the slowest depreciating mid-engine models for various budgets. In the entry-level category containing cars below $72,000, we saw that 987 Boxsters and Caymans, 981 Boxsters and Cayman S's and GTS's, 4Cs and base Evoras were among the top performers. In the lower middle segment, containing cars between $72,000 and $123,000, it are the Cayman Rs, 718 Boxsters and Cayman S's, GTS's and 4-liter GTS's, first generation V10 R8s, Ferrari 360s and pre-facelift base Gallardos that performed the best.
Then we had a look at the upper middle level, the cars between $123,000 and $228,000.
In this category it are the 650 and 570S's, GT4s and boxster Spyders, NSX's and Huracan LP580s and LP610s, which are doing the best. In the final category, the stuff that will set you back more than $228,000, it are the Aventadors, 458s and 458 Speciales, 488 Pistas, Huracan EVO and EVO rear-wheel driven versions, and the 675 LTs that are doing extremely well.
Now if you're in the market for a mid-engine model and are a value-conscious buyer, I recommend to have a good look at these models. The rates are of course descriptive and cannot predict the long-term future price development. Yet, they do contain some information about the short-term future development.
Then there's also another key takeaway that we didn't talk about. Depreciation rates for many of the models are in fact quite good, since they're lower than 6% and therefore below the market average. So if you sort of care about residuals, but don't want to focus too much on it during your decision-making process, you should be fine by simply avoiding the worst depreciating models of each budget category.
And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car prices, but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find data-driven market updates for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks for a fresh market update.